The soft jazz music playing inside the elegant downtown restaurant couldn't hide the sound of that one sharp slap. It sliced through the air like thunder on a clear day. Every head turned. The chatter stopped. Forks froze midair. A stunned silence fell over the place as the black woman, dressed in a simple but graceful blue dress, touched her cheek in disbelief. Her name was Lena Parker, and she had only come here for a quiet dinner. She wasn't a woman of wealth or prestige, or so everyone thought. But the woman who slapped her, the waitress, didn't know whose world she had just shaken. The waitress, Samantha, stood there with her lips curled, eyes flashing with disgust. "I told you," she sneered loud enough for half the restaurant to hear. "We don't serve troublemakers here. Go back where you came from." Lena didn't shout. She didn't cry. She simply looked around the restaurant, noticing the silent approval on some faces, the discomfort on others. A few whispered, some even smiled. They all saw her as just another ordinary woman who didn't belong in this upscale place. But what they didn't know was that Lena wasn't alone. Her husband was just a few blocks away, finalizing a meeting with men who controlled half the city. Marcus Parker, the quiet man everyone in the underworld whispered about, known as the king without a crown. Lena straightened her shoulders, refusing to let the tears fall. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life," she said softly. Her voice didn't carry anger, only a strange calm that made Samantha blink. But then Samantha rolled her eyes and shouted, "Oh, really? What are you going to do? Call your boyfriend? Maybe he can afford a tip next time." Laughter rippled from a nearby table. Lena took a deep breath, trying to hold on to her dignity. "I came here to celebrate my anniversary," she said quietly. "You didn't have to do this." Samantha scoffed. "Then maybe celebrate at a place you can afford." At that, Lena simply turned and walked out. But as she did, she dialed one number on her phone. The voice that answered was low, deep, and calm, the kind of calm that made even the strongest men tremble. "What's wrong, baby?" Marcus asked. Lena's voice cracked just a little. "Someone at La Vienne hit me." There was silence on the line. Then Marcus said 4 simple words, "Stay right there, honey." Inside his black car, Marcus leaned forward, eyes narrowing. His men, seated beside him, immediately straightened. "Change of plans," Marcus said, sliding his phone into his pocket. "We're paying a visit." Minutes later, 3 black cars pulled up outside the restaurant. The valet froze. The air shifted. Men in dark suits stepped out, each one silent and serious. Marcus walked at the center, tall, commanding, and radiating quiet danger. When he entered the restaurant, every customer felt the tension rise. The room went still again. The waitress, now busy behind the counter, turned around and froze as her eyes met his. "Who's in charge here?" Marcus asked, his voice low but firm. The manager rushed forward, nervous. "Sir, is there a problem?" Marcus pointed at Lena, who stood near the entrance, her cheek still red. "Someone touched my wife." Samantha's face turned pale. I didn't know." Marcus didn't even look at her yet. He only looked at the manager. "You let this happen in your establishment?" The manager stuttered, trying to explain. But Marcus raised his hand. "No excuses. You'll apologize to her, and then you'll shut this place down for a week." The manager nodded quickly, calling staff together. But Marcus wasn't done. He finally turned to Samantha, his gaze piercing straight through her. "You thought she didn't belong here?" he asked. Samantha swallowed hard, unable to speak. Lena stepped forward, touching his arm. "Marcus, please, let it go." He shook his head. "No, she made you feel small." Samantha's hands trembled. "I didn't know she was your wife," she whispered. Marcus leaned closer. "That's exactly the point. You shouldn't have needed to know who she was." Everyone in the restaurant could feel the chill that came with his words. "Now here's a question for you. What would you do if someone disrespected the person you love right in front of a crowd?" Marcus turned away from the terrified waitress and looked back at his wife. "Let's go," he said softly. As they left, his men quietly placed an envelope on the counter. Inside was a stack of cash, double the restaurant's earnings for the night. Attached was a note that said, "For the repairs after your lesson." But this was just the beginning. What Marcus didn't know was that someone in that restaurant had recorded everything. The video of the slap, followed by Marcus's entrance, was already spreading like wildfire. By the next morning, it wouldn't just be Samantha who'd face consequences. The entire city would be whispering about the mysterious man who walked in like a storm to defend his wife. And Lena, she was about to learn what it really meant to be married to the most feared man in town. By the next morning, the restaurant was already buzzing, but not for the usual reasons. Patrons were whispering, pointing at their phones, and replaying the clip over and over. Samantha, the waitress, had no idea that a single act of arrogance had spiraled into a storm she could never control. The video of her slapping Lena, followed by the calm yet terrifying entrance of Marcus Parker, was everywhere. It wasn't just a local topic anymore. It was trending on every social media platform with hashtags she had never imagined existing. "Look at this," a customer said, showing a friend the video on their phone. She actually hit her, and then her husband shows up. Who is he? The footage captured Marcus's silent, commanding walk into the restaurant, the way heads turned instinctively, the fear in every staff member's eyes. He didn't raise his voice, didn't yell, yet the power he exuded made Samantha shrink like a mouse caught in a trap. By noon, Samantha's phone was blowing up with calls and messages. Most were angry, some were threatening, and a few were just mocking. "Did you see what happened at La Vienne?" The texts read. "The Mafia boss showed up for his wife. You're going to regret this. I hope you know who you're messing with." Samantha tried to tell herself it wasn't real. She had only been following rules, doing her job, but deep down, she knew she had crossed a line she could never uncross. Meanwhile, Lena and Marcus were back in their penthouse, a sleek, modern fortress high above the city streets. Marcus poured himself a glass of whiskey while Lena scrolled through her phone, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Looks like everyone knows who you are now," she said, shaking her head. Marcus took a sip, his eyes dark and thoughtful. "They don't know everything," he replied. "Just enough to understand why no one should ever mess with us." Despite his calm exterior, he felt a twinge of curiosity. How would Samantha respond now that the world had watched her humiliation? Marcus didn't need revenge, not really, but he loved seeing justice served, especially when it was public. Back at the restaurant, Samantha's manager called her into the office. His hands were shaking, and he avoided looking her in the eyes. You understand what's happening, right?" he asked. Samantha nodded, pale and quiet. I didn't know," she stammered, trying to explain herself. The manager sighed. "It doesn't matter. The video is everywhere. The Parker name carries weight you can't even imagine. This isn't just about your job anymore." She looked down at her shoes, feeling the weight of reality crash over her. What is he going to do? That question lingered in the air as her phone buzzed again. Another notification. She hesitated, then opened it. A message from an unknown number appeared. "I hope you've learned the value of respect. You're lucky this time. MP." Samantha's stomach dropped. That short, simple message sent chills down her spine. She couldn't call the number back. She didn't want to. She couldn't even tell anyone about it. Meanwhile, Lena, curious about the attention, asked Marcus why he had chosen not to publicly humiliate Samantha further. "Why didn't you make an example of her?" she asked, genuinely intrigued. Marcus smiled faintly. "Sometimes showing restraint is the strongest message. Let the world see what happens when you cross us. That's punishment enough." Samantha, on the other hand, was learning her own lesson. She had lost her job, her reputation tarnished, and she couldn't escape the whispers, the notifications, or the judgmental eyes of strangers online. People began showing up at the restaurant to gawk, take photos, and record videos just to see her. She felt trapped in a world she didn't belong in, and there was no one to save her. Then came the first real escalation. Someone posted a comment tagging her with a warning. "You have no idea who you're messing with. Stay inside, or things will get worse." Her heart raced. Panic set in. She had always thought of Marcus Parker as a myth, a man of whispered stories. Now, she realized the stories were true, and she was the center of them. Samantha spent that night, sleepless, checking her phone every 5 minutes. She imagined Marcus Parker walking through her door, silent, calm, and deadly. Could someone really be that powerful without needing to yell or fight? She shivered. Meanwhile, Lena and Marcus had other plans. Marcus was already mapping out the next steps. He wanted Samantha to understand the gravity of her mistake, but he didn't want unnecessary bloodshed. Fear is more powerful than violence, he explained to Lena. The world watches, and the lesson spreads without a single drop of blood spilled. By the end of the week, the story had become more than a trending topic. It was a viral phenomenon. Media outlets covered it, influencers made videos, and hashtags were shared millions of times. The restaurant lost customers who were intimidated by the Parker name, and Samantha's life had been turned upside down. Yet, somewhere deep inside, Samantha began to wonder, was there any way to survive the wrath of a man like Marcus Parker without completely surrendering to fear? She didn't know it yet, but the answer would come sooner than she thought, and it would involve choices that could either save her or destroy her completely. The Parker name had not just taught Samantha a lesson, it had sent a clear warning to anyone who might ever disrespect them. And Lena, she was starting to realize that marrying Marcus Parker meant living in a world where a single glance, a single word, or a single slap could change everything in the blink of an eye. Samantha couldn't sleep. Every creak of her apartment door, every shadow on the wall, made her heart race. The viral video had consumed her life. Her friends avoided her calls, coworkers whispered behind her back, and even strangers recognized her on the street. She had become infamous overnight, all because she had made a single reckless decision. By mid-morning, she was pacing her apartment, scrolling desperately through news articles and social media posts. Headlines screamed, Mafia boss defends wife after restaurant incident, and Parker Empire shows no mercy. Each click made her stomach churn. She realized she was in over her head, and there was no turning back. Her phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. Hesitant, she answered. Miss Samantha, a deep, calm voice said, "This is Marcus Parker. I hope you understand the seriousness of your actions." Her hands trembled. I didn't know, she stammered. There's no excuse. Marcus interrupted, his tone cold, yet measured. But you will have a chance to make this right. I believe in giving lessons, not unnecessary punishment. Samantha swallowed hard, barely able to breathe. What do you want me to do? Meet me, he said simply, in 1 hour. Alone. She hung up, frozen with fear and disbelief. 1 hour. Alone. Could she survive meeting the most feared man in the city? Her thoughts spiraled. What if he punished her? What if this was the end of her life, as she knew it? Meanwhile, Marcus had already left the penthouse. He wasn't angry, at least not in the way most people expected. Anger was cheap. He wanted control. He wanted Samantha to understand that disrespect had consequences, that actions, even small ones, rippled outward in ways people could never anticipate. He arrived at a quiet park near the restaurant. The air was crisp, the city bustling in the distance, unaware of the storm about to unfold. Samantha arrived a few minutes later, her hands shaking, her mind racing. She approached cautiously, trying to make herself as small and non-threatening as possible. Marcus was waiting, standing tall and composed, his gaze fixed on her the moment she approached. You're here, he said. Yes, she whispered. I want to fix this. Marcus nodded. Good. Let's start with honesty. Tell me why you slapped my wife. Samantha swallowed hard, tears forming in her eyes. I thought she was someone else. I was rude. I was wrong. Enough excuses. Marcus interrupted, but there was no anger in his voice, only the firm certainty that he demanded respect. I want you to understand the weight of your actions. Do you? She nodded quickly. Yes, I do. I'm sorry. Marcus studied her for a moment, then leaned closer. Apologies are words. Actions are what matter. You will do something to make amends, not just for her, but for yourself. Samantha's brow furrowed. What kind of actions? You're going to learn respect, empathy, and humility, Marcus said quietly. And if you fail, the world will remember you for your mistakes forever. But if you succeed, you will survive, and maybe even grow from this. For the next hour, Marcus guided her through exercises of accountability. He had arranged for her to meet Lena once again, not in the restaurant, but at a neutral place. Samantha was forced to listen, truly listen, as Lena explained how it felt to be humiliated, how a single moment of ignorance could ripple through someone's life. She saw the strength behind Lena's calm, the grace that had endured an unjust slap, and the quiet power of being married to Marcus Parker. By the end of the day, Samantha was drained, humbled, and profoundly changed. She realized that power wasn't just about fear or control, it was about respect and understanding, and that even the smallest actions could have enormous consequences. Marcus finally spoke. Remember this moment. Remember what it feels like to be at the mercy of someone stronger. Let it guide your choices from now on. Samantha nodded, tears streaming down her face. I will. I promise. Marcus gave a faint, almost imperceptible smile. Good. You may leave, but know this. If you ever cross the wrong person again, it won't be a lesson next time. Samantha left the park, feeling a strange mix of relief and terror. She had survived, but the memory of Marcus Parker would haunt her forever. She would never forget the quiet authority, the calm that carried more power than any yell, any slap, or any act of violence. Meanwhile, Lena and Marcus returned to their penthouse, where the city stretched below them like a glittering map of possibilities and dangers. Lena looked at her husband, a soft smile on her lips. You really don't need to raise your voice to make an impact, she said. Marcus shrugged, pouring another drink. Fear is loud, but respect is silent. People remember the quiet ones who command it. And somewhere, deep in the city, Samantha sat alone in her apartment, reflecting on the events that had changed her life forever. She had been reckless, arrogant, and foolish, but she had survived. And as the viral video continued to circulate online, people continued to whisper about the mysterious man who walked into a restaurant and changed the course of a waitress's life with nothing but his presence. The lesson was clear. Some people are untouchable not because they seek revenge, but because the world itself bends for them. And the Parker name, whispered in awe and fear, would continue to remind everyone that respect isn't demanded, it's earned. Samantha finally understood that she had been given a second chance, a rare gift in a world where mistakes could easily be fatal. She vowed never to forget it. And in that quiet resolve, the story of the slap, the video, and the Mafia boss who defended his wife came to an unforgettable end.